Welcome very much to Conversation. A pleasure to welcome to the program Campbell Dalglish. He's a filmmaker, and he's also a person very interested in many aspects of ecological concern. And we're going to be talking with him about these and other matters. Show a couple of clips. Campbell, welcome really very much to Conversation.
Oh, thank you.
We met at a party celebrating George Stoney, a wonderful pioneer of public access, a great man, over this last weekend, but welcome. And maybe you could share your own background. I know you're a filmmaker and you're also a professor, but share your own background, maybe born and raised, and a little of your education as a way to wade in. And then we're going to show some clips of your work. But
okay, well, thank you. It's a real pleasure to be here, and it was great meeting you at George Stoney's birthday party.
We got rained out at the end, but it was it was almost like a perfect finish.
Yeah, it was great. George has been having birthday parties out there for, gosh, probably 20 years, I think now.
So, with the Paulsons.
Those who don't know George, he's considered the grandfather of public access. And that's how I come to know George. I was born in Pennsylvania, raised on a farm in Indiana, grew up in school systems in Connecticut, North Carolina, Colorado, went to Colorado University, then worked in Colorado and as an actor and a writer. I was an editor of a poetry magazine called Green Horse Poetry Magazine and Reports from the Underground.
Where in Indiana were you?
I was born in, or not born there, but I was raised in Carmel, Indiana.
I went to university, did doctorate work at Bloomington.
My brother lives in Bloomington.
Yeah, great town, the Cutters and things. It was a great, Breaking Away is a great movie.
It's a great movie.
Anyway, so you've had that varied degree. You've lived in many parts of the world, of the country,
Right. And I moved to Connecticut, went to Yale School of Drama.
That's very good. My daughter did her director track master's at Yale, She's coming into town in a couple of weeks. I'll be glad to see her and particularly the two grandsons that have come out of a marriage with a fellow from the St. Petersburg Academy of Theater, sort of comparable to Yale, Were you on the director's tact or what?
I was on the playwrights program there, but I did some directing, acting in the cabaret, and while I was taking classes and writing my plays there, I was also working at Whaley Avenue Prison. And at that time, I was just using improvisational techniques that I had learned in theater in Denver. And I realized right away that the inmates that I was working with, who I was supposed to be instructing them in poetry writing, were very fluid in terms of acting out. And they were better actors than they were writers. And so I said, well, let's just bring in video cameras. So I went across the street to Store Cable, and they had public access there. And that's how I got introduced to film. I came in the back door through public access and started directing the inmates through improvisations, and developed over the years, after going through about 4 different prisons and juvenile delinquent centers, developed a method that in 10 sessions I could get a program together where they would improvise a story. They would create their own characters. I would direct them in situations that were, of course, all nonviolent. They had to find verbal ways of solving problems that I would set up. And then we would air those on public access, and I was teaching in the magnet schools in New Haven at the time. So during the day, I'd be teaching poetry and writing, story writing in the high schools in the inner city of New Haven. And some of my students would recognize their uncles or relatives, fathers on public access. So public access turned out to be quite a wonderful experience.
Absolutely.
I get my hat off to George Stoney for
not only George
that.
Stoney, but the people out of Japan who invented the famous porta-pack. I don't know if you go back far enough to remember the porta-pack.
The Sony porta-pack.
That was a thing by which you could make a 20-minute reel-to-reel black and white television. That had awaited the invention of videotape itself, which was coming. The early stuff recording of television was kinescope. It was a film process. And then came videotape. And that's these kind of multimedia capability, the film came, but then came video, and that made it available to the general society for there to be multimedia representation of a person's presence. It's very different because it's very nuanced, because you're picking up eyeglasses, you're picking up glances, you're picking up, you know, all the reality, the multimedia or multisensorial reality, which is what is conveyed by somebody in real life, more than you can on the written page.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, I had a friend of mine, or a program we did, I'll just go off, Alexandria Fuller, great, really good writer. She was one of she wrote a book called Scribbling the Cat that was dealing with Rhodesia. She had been a daughter of a settler there and everything, and she had written, it became a big bestseller nationally, worldwide, and so forth. But she said she thought all writing ought to be cinematographic.
Yes,
you should be writing
would agree.
In terms of, because, you know, the setting, you know, the cinematograph, you know, the wind is coming, and all these kind of things. You try to write it in a screenplay or something, or on a stage. But it makes it possible. It's a different kind of communication, multimedia, multisensorial.
Yeah. It truly is. Yet I still go back to, it's, you know, some of our greatest artists are blind, and they're forced to go, like Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, blind, and forced to go to another source of expression.
That's interesting.
And so I think in terms of reducing one's ability to express oneself visually forces you, and I'm going back to writing. Writing is sort of, I call it the wardrobe of the mind.
Wardrobe of
the wardrobe of the mind, and how you write is expressing yourself through a completely different language that people can read in total silence on the other side of the world without even knowing you, and get a story told.
But if you're doing playwright or screenwriting, and you're writing, it's good to have, in the sense of the environmental context.
Oh, yeah.
The wind is coming and the moon is high and this kind of stuff. You have that going cinemagraphically, is what she said. And her book, I think they made it into a film. And it was really, anyway, that's a sidebar.
Well,
thing.
I agree with that completely. I teach screenwriting, and the hardest thing and the challenge that I have before myself and my students is that how do you describe an expression that is just so subtle? The behavioral language of the character speaks volumes, while the words that you may have written down in a screenplay speak so little.
Or in real life. I mean, so much of the communication is not verbal. I mean, it's not. It's subtle, or it's a glance of the eye, or something like that. And that's what comes into good acting too, particularly if you're not. You know, if you've got a way of having that in a film or in a television thing, it's a different kind of thing than the written page. But good writing is important, though. Right?
Very important. I think that, as I say, I think it's really the wardrobe of the mind, and how you write sometimes is how well you've organized your thoughts.
And you did at Yale. I guess that's our leading school, having to do with theatrical arts and that kind of stuff. And screenwriting is one of the directions you went. So and I hear you say you're doing things with poetry. Are you a poet? Do you
I had written poetry, published poetry, and was teaching poetry in the prisons and in the school systems, as well as lyrical writing, songwriting.
Interesting. You had this connection to the prisons. Apparently, you did that in a number of places. Was that something of your own volition, or was just opportunity was there? Or
it was both. It was an opportunity that opened up. I was working for the Eugene O'Neill Theater Center in Waterford, Connecticut, and they had a program that put writers in residence, both in prisons and juvenile delinquent centers, as well as preschool to high school to community groups of writers. I would, in one day, driving around in Connecticut, that's how I made my living, go to 4 residencies. I might spend the morning at a preschool with little 1-year-olds and kids before first grade climbing into my lap. And then I would go to a prison where I'd be with the inmates, a little scarier, and then a high school. And then maybe a junior high or a grade school.
Kept you on your toes.
Oh, It was, you couldn't use the same exercises, although some of them were very transferable. It was just how you related to the people.
And you've been interested in that all along. And now you teach now.
Yes, I teach at City College.
Okay, good.
Of CUNY, City University of New York.
Okay, go ahead,
So I teach at City University of New York, and I just received a grant from City College to do two things: to teach a class in filmmaking, call it ethnographic filmmaking, and to create a film called Being Indian in Oklahoma. I just got back from there. That's where I spent the last month with MFA student Niamh Conti, with partner Robert Vetter, and my other professor from City College is Irene Silber, Lottie Silber. And the four of us have been putting together a documentary that will be about a 90-minute documentary aimed for PBS called Being Indian in Oklahoma.
How does that work, PBS? Do you have a contract for that, or is that worked out
no,
ahead?
You have to, PBS is a bureaucracy that is very hard to figure out.
I figure.
And it's mostly by, you make your film and then you pitch it to PBS, and I'm going to be applying for NEH grants, of course, and any other grants that I can.
Yeah.
Native American Indian filmmaking is something that is coming of age, even though you mentioned the kinescope and Edison. The first 300 films that were made with the kinescope back in 1910 with Edison were of Indians. The subjects were Indians. They are, by history, the largest, been in more films. They are the subject of more films than any other ethnic group.
In that kinescope format, you mean?
In the history of film, it's people don't realize this, but when you look at the entire history of film, what ethnic group has been in film, and since the film?
You mean as documentaries, or are you talking feature films too?
Just as a subject.
As a subject
of an ethnic group.
Well,
and it's hard to believe, but if you count not just those first 300 films, but you also count all the TV shows of the savages, the bloodthirsty savages, and on and on and on.
I always saw that as sort of a white man's propaganda. Because they were always made out to be the bad guy, and really that was not the case. They were being conquered. And that was characteristic ever since Pizarro and Cortez and the English coming to a new continent and everything. It seems like I don't quite understand. I'm wondering whether there's Margaret Mead would come to me, somebody who was appreciative of the culture. Dances of Wolves, I think it tried to do that with Costner. They tried to get on the side that was the reality, that there's values there other than just conquering, which is what was the case of this chemistry.
Well, see, Dances with Wolves brings us to a contemporary way of portraying the American Indian, and it's by having the white man as the savior, and that's Dances with Wolves. It's as wonderful a film as it is white man as the savior. We're now getting films made by Chris Eyre, by Sterling Harjo, that portray American Indians by American Indians, and they're independent films that are coming out.
Good, I'm glad to hear that. That's really
strong.
Good. I could just as a sidebar, I did all my doctoral work in geography and everything, but I happened to have the pleasure of studying under Carl Sawyer, our leading geographer, but and I did the dissertation work on the Aymara Indian peoples of Bolivia. We lived for about a year and a half among those people, and I'm very happy to see that they've got, in my own thinking, politically and so forth, Evo Morales and the Aymara people have come into some political power in that country. They've been treated, I know, shabbily ever since Pizarro. I mean, really shabbily. And so what I'm glad to see they're beginning to make their own statement and their own values of value, because one of the things they have almost universally is an appreciation of the ecology that doesn't seem to be characteristic of the European nearly as much as it is among them. Well,
that's the oddity. Here we are as colonists. We've all come from some other country other than America, and we bring with us our folklore. We bring with us our celebratory times of Christmas and the holidays and the parades and everything.
Our creation stories.
Yes, our creation stories from Europe, and yet we're living in a world.
Turtle Island.
We're living
Turtle Island.
And so when I walk outside and I hear the wind blowing, I'm going, I wonder what's going on out here spirit-wise. It's a pretty simple conclusion to come to that. Well, that's not Zeus or Helen or. It's not.
That's not the Kraken.
That's right.
Or things they're coming out of.
So I think Americans coming from Europe, Eurocentric cultures, we're sort of misplaced. We've lost our identities, most of us, looking for identities in this country as an Italian or Chinese or Scottish or Irish, any of our Eurocentric roots, they're back home, and to try to find our roots here and celebrate them here seems rather odd to me. And so that's been one of my main reasons that I want to, as a craftsman, be able to teach, and as a filmmaker, be able to give voice to those spirits and to those American Indians and have them tell their own story, which they in the end would own, they would create, they would tell. And so that is my goal in especially this current city college grant that I've received.
Okay, very good. And that's the way to show it. Filmmaking is the wave of the future. It's multimedia we're going. James Joyce, or not James Joyce so much, Marshall McLuhan would be talking about we're coming into a multi-sensorial capability of extended consciousness that we haven't had. We're coming over the Gutenberg galaxy. I don't know if you ever had a chance, tour de force on the significance of linear thinking that came out of the phonetic alphabet, and also stringing things out linearly was the heritage of the European Eurocentrism, and we're now coming into a multi-sensorial, what would you call it? You don't call it linear, you call it, what do we call it in editing now? It's
nonlinear.
Nonlinear. It's multi-sensorial. And you got this kind of quality. So that's where the communication is going to be. Bucky Fuller said he thought all the universities will become video production, documentary making places, and education will be done through documentaries that use the professorship and the scholarship as the content of documentaries, which will be the way in which the world will become educated through that process. I think that's likely to emerge.
Buckminster Fuller was way ahead of his times.
Way ahead. Maybe we should catch up with him more than we have. Anyway, welcome to it and everything. And you're working now. You've done some things in the past. Maybe we should touch on those and then get to the Indian.
Well, this is a perfect segue. You speak of Buckminster Fuller and screenwriting.
We could talk about Buckminster forever.
Let's talk about the Navajo language, which is all in the present tense.
Dene or something,
It's all in present tense.
Is that right? Okay.
So think about that for a moment. If you're not able to talk in past tense or future tense, it's really the 60s motif, be here now.
Be here now. Thank you, Alpert. Right,
And when you write a screenplay, you can't write in the past tense or the future tense. You have to write in the present tense. And when you see a film, you're not seeing it in a past tense or a future tense.
Flashbacks.
You're seeing it happen before your very eyes.
But you do have flashbacks.
But those are right before your very eyes, right?
Oh, that's true. That's true.
Everything that you see
that's true. Right. Okay.
On the screen is happening right here, right now. And that's why it is such a valuable medium, because we're able to create dream experiences for our audience being here right now. I talk about the Navajo because the first clip that we'll take a look at is Navajo Runner is the title of it. And it's about Alvina Begay, who is the fastest Indian woman on earth. She's an Olympic runner. And we went out back in 2008. We went out and videotaped her on the Navajo reservation.
All right. Well,
so we can roll that if you like. And
just hold off for a second if we can, Willie, if you do that. We'd want to do that, run that and everything. But one of the things is that I'd bring up in a generic sense, in that is the means of that we're going to be the cyber communications is going cyber. Everything's going cyber now because we're coming out of a history where it moves very slow, and then it goes hyperbolic, and then it goes exponential. It's going exponential now, and we're going to be swimming in bandwidth. We're going to be swimming in capability for using that beyond a thing of scarcity of capability. It is going to be more and more. And one of the things to mention is that the future of presentation, of multimedia, I think it's pretty clear now. It's emerging. It's even happening. Is going to be the best model is not so much like the IMAX, which gets pretty big, a whole wall and everything, but it's the planetarium. The planetarium has a 5 thing going around the radius, and then a keystone, and it comes down almost hemispheric to the way you see the world as you go through the world. It's getting down to where some some architectural firms even are getting to model the planetarium, and they're getting standards between the various systems around the world of the planetarium, projections, so you have standards that you can do, and they're getting down to where they're going to have built into the architecture institutionally and even residential, it'll be a living room, a dining room, and a planetarium, and that it will be a projection of not only things from the stars, which are staggering, like we get at the Hayden, you know, here, but it's going to be like feature films. And it's like the way you are when you're in the world. So I just mentioned that that's where we're going, and it'll be a surround kind of way in which it can be done, and they're getting the standards down to where that's where it's heading, short of holography. You know, in terms of these developments that are going to be coming out of the exponential decreasing actual costs that they're having a hard time monetizing, but the actual development, like Fuller would have talked about. So that's where it's heading. And it'll be like a house will have a planetarium as an educational center. So I would just mention that. But
and a book to read by Bucky is Buckminster
Education.
Fuller. I seem to be a verb.
Oh, that's great. Isn't that a great thing?
Very thin book.
I seem to be a verb. Also, education.
Says it all.
Education Automation is a great book. And then the last two he wrote, Grunch of Giants and Critical Path, got to be where he was political beyond just artistic design of things, you know, anticipatory design. So we can't sing the praises of him enough. And he said that's the way education's going to go. It's going to be multimedia presentations. And so with that said, back to the thing, one of the clips that you have is about this runner in the Navajo. Now imagine this not on a flat screen. That planetarium makes the IMAX look like the Cineplex, and it makes Cineplex. It's just a whole nother dimension. If you can visualize it, it makes it look television looks like a little slit in reality rather than the surround and the enhanced sound. So there's a lot of developments that are coming. That's the only thing I'm trying to get people. I'm trying to think of. So you go to the Hayden to get an idea of what a feature film is going to be projected into, which is coming into economic reality, just on the verge, right? Anyway, so just make that point. So talk about the film. You're talking about the Navajo runner?
Well, yes, we'll watch a clip. Alvina Begay is an Olympic runner. She's also a nutritionist. One of the highest rates of diabetes happens on the Navajo reservation.
Is that right? Why?
So, well, it's when they were given fry bread and sugar, and their natural food was taken away, their natural diet was replaced by Fort Worth kind of diet and fry bread, as well as sweet sugars. It changed their whole lives. Physically, mentally, spiritually. They weren't hunting and getting their food. They were being fed rations that were the poorest diet.
They were even attacked with smallpox blankets and so forth in New England and around the country. They didn't have resistance to some of the diseases that were carried by the Europeans. Disease did a lot of them in, but it was a genuine Holocaust of what was delivered down upon them. But anyway, go ahead.
So we can watch this clip if Willie wants to roll it now, and then talk about it. It pretty much.
And it's about 5 or 10 minutes, or 5 minutes.
No, it's 5.
Okay, here we go. Run the film. Oh, beautiful.
Okay, I'll see you guys.
That's Alvina.
My parents taught me that in the Navajo culture, it's important to get up early to greet the sun and scream as loud as you can so that the holy people will hear you and know who you are. You know, when the holy people hear your voice or they see you out running, you're blessed with a lot of different things. That was good. One thing that they also said was that getting up early in the morning teaches you discipline and it gives you strength.
Way better. That's much better.
A marathon is 26.2 miles. I've only done the marathon once, and I qualified for the Olympic trials, which will be held next April in Boston.
Try to drop hands a little bit. Malvina's shown tremendous improvement over the last year. You don't see that many people improve that much in that shorter period of time. You just don't see it. It might have been a little choppy, yeah.
I'm definitely using this time to get stronger, to get faster. I have less than a year now to get ready for the Olympic trials. I really liked my nutrition classes in college, and I just decided to become a dietitian. One of the reasons I was really interested in working here is because you get a lot of your Native American population. For me to be able to work with Native Americans means a lot to me, especially with the high diabetes rate. One concern that I have with working particularly with the elderly who are diabetic is that they're already set in their ways as far as their diet. So, getting them to change is a little bit difficult. Remember I told you that it's really important for you to eat foods that are high in calcium so you can have strong bones. If you don't have good calcium intake, you put yourself at risk for getting osteoporosis.
Beans.
Beans?
Beans are
My purpose in life comes to light when I go home to work on the Navajo reservation, because then I'm able to use my running and my diet education to motivate diabetics. Lately, I've noticed that there are a lot more younger kids that are obese and that are putting themselves at risk for getting diabetes, and that's really scary. It's a disease that they can control.
About a week ago, I sheared about 13 sheep and 14 goats.
Lately, I've been very hesitant about going home because ever since my running career has taken off, I feel like more people are definitely watching me. And, there's some people that tell me that I need to behave or act a certain way because I'm a role model now.
I'm very protective of her. I, want her to maintain a low profile. She doesn't go out there and tell everybody that she's a world-class runner.
I'm at 6,500 feet in elevation, and I feel very fortunate and I'm lucky to be able to have trained at altitude most of my life. So it's really important to me to have my parents say it's okay to run and compete and travel across the country despite some of the cultural restrictions. There's certain taboos about going past the Navajo reservation boundaries.
I'm just hoping and praying that she's one of the top 3 to go to Beijing, China. I believe this was the race that she won the mile. And this is her little picture being a little girl, and she was a baby.
Yeah, and I'm really grateful that he came along because it takes pressure off me to have kids. I'd like to just show people that it's very possible. I've really worked hard for where I've gotten. My parents taught me this Navajo phrase. It's ahwich ego, which means that every person has the power to create their own life through their decisions and choices. That's something that has always carried me throughout my life.
So that's it.
Boy, that's beautiful. That was really beautiful, lovely and everything. And I'm wondering, one of the things that occurred to me, the running. It started at the beginning. You could hear the running so well. Was that just natural sound, or did you have to pick up?
No.
That was just the natural sound of the gravel. Because it was almost like you'd have to have a special camera to pick that up.
I had a boom.
Oh, you had a boom for the running only?
Yeah.
To pick up only the running sound.
Well,
so did you have? It wasn't in the picture.
No, of course not.
But you could pick it up from a distance.
Yeah,
right?
with a shotgun mic.
With the shotgun mic, you could pick it up because that was out of sync with what I would have thought would have been done with a handheld camera, where the where the camera, the sound was right at the camera.
Yeah. No, there's we use boom and lav mics, much like
yeah,
what we're wearing here,
right.
wireless mics.
That was really very good and everything. And the idea of the handling and you're working on this film. I have a friend I'm in touch with, a young fellow, Korean. He's trying to get using. This is interesting. Because a philosopher's stone, one of the things is we're losing American Indian languages at an alarming rate. I think there's about 5,000 languages that have recovered. Have survived. No, in the world.
Oh, in the world.
In the world. And language is a philosopher's stone or something, or being able to communicate, particularly nuance.
Right.
And I got a friend, he's doing a thing, he's trying to work it out. Paige has been trying at Google, and they haven't been able to yet. But by using the color spectrum, with such enormous nuance of the color spectrum as it can be used as the basis of an algorithm to be able to translate the languages of the world autonomically from one into each other autonomically, so that you could speak in English and it would come out in Dene, or it would come out in Spanish or in German. That would be a fantastic thing if we could do it. I'm a little bit worried about the dominant culture assimilating the ones that are unique qualities and losing the unique qualities of the culture by a dominant culture that wants to impose itself on the world, you know. And there's some way in which we can preserve the variety in all of its intricacy and so forth. And film is a really good way to pick up and appreciate that, isn't it?
Oh, it is, indeed. Yeah. Well, what we're doing in Oklahoma right now with our film Being Indian in Oklahoma is you have to go back to the Trail of Tears if you're going to talk about Indians in Oklahoma.
The Cherokee,
Andrew Jackson, our president, had them removed from their homes here on the East Coast and coerced and driven to this promised land in Oklahoma, which Oklahoma translates as Red Man's Land.
Does it really? I didn't know that. Really?
But, you know, it's over the years you have to wonder, 67 tribes initially were the original tribes forced onto this territory.
From the coast? From
all over.
Coast? From all over?
Yeah, you have the 5 civilized tribes.
Was Oklahoma as a territory sort of barren in terms of population before?
It was a land that was being... I guess there wasn't a whole lot of settlers on there at the time, so they just said, we need a place for them, and we don't want them on the East Coast, so just, you know,
I don't think it was very attractive land, I mean, in terms of the way...
pretty...
until they discovered oil. Then it changed.
It becomes very attractive, but it is a beautiful land in unto itself. Before the Dust Bowl era, the Dust Bowl just raked away everything in terms of farming. But so now today you have about 37 federally recognized tribes living in Oklahoma. Only one of them has a reservation, and that's the Osage. And they were given a reservation because the government wanted to have a way that they could own the rights to the oil reserves that are there.
Who could own? The Osage or the federal government could own the rights?
The federal government, yeah. By giving them a reservation, they could own whatever's under.
And that was part of the contract. They get the federal get the mineral rights.
Yes. But what happened back in the 30s when all these tribes had their little reservations, is that an act came where they were no longer going to be wards of the state, but were turned into citizens overnight and given allotments of land, so that if their reservation was so much land, it would be cut up, sectioned up, and then they would give pieces away to families. And then the families, most of them were encouraged to keep them, but many were encouraged, sell your property to some settler and move your family to a city and become a metropolitan urban citizen with urban skills and working in factories, etc. Not only were they displaced once, but again and again they were displaced throughout the history of Indians in Oklahoma. So our film is is we're going to go back and look at the history of it.
Yeah, let's get another clip, yeah.
Yeah, well, this other clip that I have is called Apache Womanhood. So this is not in Oklahoma, this is in Arizona, but there are Apaches who live in Oklahoma.
Okay.
And so this is a good clip to look at what was a traditional ceremony practiced by Apaches in the White Mountain area of Arizona.
Okay.
This film is, we follow a white woman, her name is Susan Lawrence. She's an artist from California, and she had been going to the reservation for, I think, 16, 17 years, photographing and painting. And so we followed her back to the reservation, and we were invited into this ceremony. You cannot get into this ceremony.
Yeah, right.
Just walk in and expect that you
No,
can
no,
go
no,
into a
no,
ceremony.
no.
These are very, very private ceremonies, and we were very lucky to be invited in, and it was mostly through Susan Lawrence that got us in there. So we could watch the clip and then talk about it.
And you go to a sweat lodge or something too. You got to have some, it's not something you just don't burst in like a tourist.
Right.
Yeah, right.
Although,
okay, let's run that piece then again.
Apache Womanhood.
Apache Womanhood, and we're talking, you're thinking of putting this maybe on public television.
I started to gain passion for the Apaches. I used to check out this book from the library called The Apache Indians, and I really could see what a wickiup was. And I had this great jungle gym in the backyard, like a geodesic dome, so I'd put blankets over it, get my little sticks and pretend I had a fire in there, and I'd sleep under the stars. And I couldn't get enough of it. It was just, I always felt like I was an Indian and I wanted to be a part of them. When I first came to see the sunrise dance 16 years ago, I was so excited. And I really loved the sense of community and how they so much supported this girl on her journey to womanhood. So I keep coming back to see the journey again and again. Well, today it was fun to talk to the mother of Shanti.
My mother had passed, and she had asked me, one thing I ask of you, or to promise me that you'd have a dance for my granddaughter.
You actually mold her to be a woman. That's my role as a godmother, and helping her become the best woman she can be at whatever she decides to do with her life.
It's my understanding that when she's dancing and praying, she becomes imbued with the spirit of changing woman. Changing Woman was the very first Apache of all. And she was the strongest Apache, and she had powers to heal the sick. She becomes holy and she gains all of these special powers, and that's why the long line of people line up with whoever's ailing or little babies to be blessed, and people come from near and far to be blessed by her. I feel much better. It's so spiritual being up there, just having her touch you like that, and just she has so much energy. So I've never had anyone do that before. There were a few times in the ceremony that she really faltered, and I could just tell she was in really horrible pain. This is a real endurance ceremony for the girl. I mean, she's sitting there dancing for hours on end in this hot heat. She's been dancing for a number of days. My heart just goes out. Harris, the medicine man, was speaking very quietly to Shanti. His voice was like soothing her. And then the content of what he said was, I want you to know, Shanti, that all of these people are here for you.
He said that even though all the pain you go through, no one can help you. You can only help yourself. You can only believe in yourself. I just felt some kind of force that came into my body and then just lifted me up and just took away all the pain at once.
Look at her energy now. It's amazing.
It felt really powerful, and I like that feeling.
Afterwards, she came and apologized, was apologizing to me. I'm sorry I let you down by crying. No, He didn't let me down. He lift me up, because I see the miracle that can happen, the power that you have.
I have more pride now than I ever did, because now I know that I can do anything.
Shanti is painted with a sacred mixture of cornmeal and clay. She turns into a beautiful sculpture. And when her godfather pulls her to her feet, for the first time she's entering into the world as a woman. She is changing the world.
For me to see all the people, you know, supporting this girl when she's really having a hard time, when she's crying, and then she perseveres and she makes it through, and it's a really beautiful transformation. And at the end, you know, she's there healing everyone, and she's like a little butterfly spreading her wings. I've given myself permission to blossom and permission to paint and love and cherish this culture. Shanti, congratulations. To have this journey with these people and to gain their acceptance and to be able to be a part of their ceremony and talk to them and learn from them is a real gift.
Boy, that's beautiful. That thing was like iconic and everything. That was really beautiful. My gosh, well shot.
Yeah.
What did you shoot? What are you shooting in?
That piece was shot. I brought one of my MFA students from City College, Darren Methley.
Okay.
We shot on my own camera, which at that time was a Sony PD-150.
Okay, yeah.
So it was a mini DV camera. Wonderful little camera. I still have it.
I know.
I would still use it, except for everything's gone HD.
I know.
And
big change. You see that you're familiar with that. HD is a whole nother dimension, or and is that the way the world's going?
Yeah,
I guess it is. That's part of that bandwidth that's coming available to us. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Get that high definition. But what was I think interesting and also created a bit of a conflict with this film was that what right do we, as an outside culture, have to come into a very private ceremony like this and film it? So it introduces a whole other question in terms of the outside world looking in to something that is very sacred and private. And we would have never done this hadn't we been invited in by the family, by the godparents, by the, as you can see, the medicine man talked very willingly to us. But there's a history of abuse and use, as we know, of American Indians taking pictures, selling their pictures, selling their culture, in some ways raping their culture. And
it's a history of the world. One power conquering another, and then trying to establish their system upon that and assimilate them into the conquering powers.
But there's something very, very valuable for us to learn, I think, from American Indians and from the Apaches, and that is when you take something from another culture, take the beauty of it and plant it in your own culture.
If you can. That's what assimilation would be, if you could do it.
It would be wonderful if it was ever possible for our Eurocentric culture to practice this kind of ceremony where, imagine, is there anything comparable to this kind of, it's called the sunrise ceremony, where a young woman is introduced and initiated into womanhood, where the entire community gathers together, plays music, gives gifts. You have the godparents on one side and the parents on the other, and all the relatives show up, and for 4 days she dances. For 4 days they celebrate her entering into womanhood.
She dances in 115-degree temperature for 4 days and wonders why she's tired? I mean, for 4 days? I would be exhausted beyond belief, even though I was a young lady or a young man.
She got sick on top of it.
Yeah, well.
But it's, they say for the young man, the equivalent used to be that he would have to take a mouthful of water and run up a mountain in the morning. And he'd be running all day. And run up the mountain and come down the mountain. and then spit out the water at the end of the day.
I think I'd rather remain a youth than try to handle that. You know,
that's what the initiation was for young men.
Right.
But this
they do have in the Jewish tradition bar mitzvah, bas mitzvah, and we have first communion. These kind of things are remnants of that kind of thing. I guess
very similar.
Yeah.
What I found very remarkable about this was phenomenon that happens. Her element was rain. And as we were recording her at the end of the 4 days where there wasn't a cloud in the sky, and it was hot beyond belief.
Yeah.
And suddenly she's talking to us, and rain starts coming down, and she smiles and she says, "It's raining. That's my element." That she was dancing
Did
for.
you catch it on tape? You didn't
Yes.
You
yes,
did? Oh, good. Yeah. Listen, one of the problems in this universe or any other is this tyranny of not enough time to get everything in.
Yeah.
We could talk to you for 25 hours, easy. But we want to move along because you have one more clip, and it's from the same thing. Are you trying to place this this film you're making, like maybe in public television for distribution or something?
Absolutely.
That's a major place to go, like to Nova,
right?
and that kind of thing.
The pieces that we're looking at right now were segments that were broadcast on the New Morning Show back in 2008.
I see.
And they've since ceased to exist.
Yeah.
It was the Hallmark Channel.
Hallmark Channel. I remember it. Yeah, right.
But our specialty, I think, was, as it turned out, making these short segments in Indian country. And the whole idea of the show was that people wanted to have what they called a takeaway. In other words, you would watch something and spiritually get something that you could take away from watching the show.
And there's got to be a way of archiving this stuff because there's going to be more and more stuff.
Yeah.
You know, we don't have a Dewey Decimal System for our multimedia. How do we get a thing where we can archive things, even to know how to do it? We do it in linear terms. It was easier with Dewey Decimal at the Library of Congress. But some way of archiving the footage is going to be coming available to us as part of a national or international treasure of educational potential.
My partner Robert Vetter and I, we were just at the Historical Society in Oklahoma City visiting their archives, and they have an incredible amount of photos and films and radio interviews and audio interviews that fill volumes, fill entire floors. And it has still not been archived in terms of digitally indexed so that you can access it.
Well, that's what
that's going to be our challenge.
That's a huge challenge for humanity. How are we going to get an indexing system like for literature? You know, we had Dewey Decimal, we had Library of Congress, it worked. But when you get into images and multi-images,
how do you do it?
You got to have some sort of a system to index and cross-reference keywords they use, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, right now they have a mother and a daughter who have it all in their heads.
Right.
So it's a family. It's multi-generational. Yeah. And there's got to be a way that they've.
They got to make that into an algorithm.
I don't know how you would do it in. Ken Burns went there and did the Dust Bowl. He got it all from the Oklahoma Historical Society. So when we go there, and they brought out a little box just to begin with, but when I looked at how much they have there that I would need to look through, I could spend several lifetimes going through the boxes.
Yeah, and it's growing.
And it's still coming in.
And the amount of multimedia content is just growing exponentially. They're making multimedia with cell phones now.
I
mean, there is more.
Revolutions are happening.
No, it really is.
By cell phone and Twitter and Facebook.
See, that's the hell of it. We could sit here and talk for 25 minutes on the implications of new media, but there's a tyranny of the time. Right. And so we have one more clip we want to try and get in
let's
of your thing.
Take a look at one more clip, and I'd like to try to talk how this fits in.
We got about 10 minutes left, so we can get that clip in with some comment.
This will be, it's called Old World Secret, and we took, not many people know this, but and I don't know how much of it is left because of the floods that have happened recently, but we hiked into the Grand Canyon to visit the Havasupai reservation, and there they have beautiful, incredibly beautiful waterfalls that not a lot of people know about, nor would they take the risk or the endurance test of hiking down through
is that right to the Colorado River?
You'll see. We could
the
run
Colorado River goes through
Yeah.
the Grand Canyon.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, let's get
run the
it in.
clip
It's
and-
great natural beauty
see
and
it.
all
Yeah,
that. And
this
so we're
is-
doing, and we're talking about it with Campbell Dalglish. Let's roll that last clip, and here it goes.
This is the New Morning Show.
Welcome
The host.
back. Our world is made up of 4 elements: earth, air, fire, and water. Water is in some ways the most magical. We associate it with birth and rebirth. The Havasupai people have held their 4 waterfalls in the Grand Canyon so sacred that for centuries they kept them a secret. Because of their remote location, the tribe didn't encounter people of European descent until the 19th century. Now, fortunate outsiders like Melinda Hoffman of Tempe, Arizona, get to experience the wonder that the falls inspire. Today, we'll travel with her to these sacred waters.
Dog hangout. That dog was...
He's probably down there. What do you see? Yeah, what's going on in your head right now? Yeah. I thought it was a lot worse.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be steeper.
Yeah, that's right.
And that layer there, that's where that red part of the Grand Canyon is. So that's where we are now. So that's how you can tell where we are.
I've always watched National Geographic when I was a kid and saw them go on these great adventures. But growing up in the inner city with my mom, who was a widow, I never even went to summer camp. And I always dreamt about doing something like this.
Hey, Miguel, move over right there. I just want to get a picture of you and right there. Okay. Oh, that's great.
Cammie and Mariah have stopped me all along this trip and saying, Mom, you know, this was the best thing for us to be all together and experience this. All these wonderful memories and to be able to experience it all together.
So there's 3 falls up here. There's Navajo, Havasu, Mooney, and there's one more Beaver. I think one of the most beautiful things about the Havasupai people is that they're very selfless people. They're very genuine, and it's a privilege to appreciate their culture, to enjoy the surroundings. It is a privilege, it's not a right. This is Havasu Falls. This is why we come here. This is very much a Garden of Eden, in the literal sense of the word, and it's important we protect that. I've gone down there several times already, and this time around it was quite a treat to meet Diana. You meet local people from time to time, but actually being able to sit down and sort of hear their perspective on their home and their beautiful existence down there was really neat.
This was our summer home. We would come here and we would cultivate because of the river, the creek. In the winter, we would go up onto the plateaus and do the venison hunting and the rabbits and picking of the piñons and the different herbs that we needed for medicine. We were going back and forth, but after we were asked to be put on reservations, the elders chose this place. When we began to be put into boarding schools, 10 generations became lost, and we didn't know where we were going. This is why when I came back from going to school, in the end I realized that my tradition, my people were the strongest part of me, so I became this traditionalist. So I began to teach some of the younger people to, be strong in the way they feel as Native people and as Indians. After a while, we finally got the tribe to build the school from Head Start to 8th grade. This gives us time to nurture the children again and to give them their roots.
I just want to say what you were saying was so universal.
Going back to your culture and being true to yourself made me realize that that's what I needed to do with my girls, to go back to my culture and share with them.
This is used in ceremony, so I rub this on.
Well, I'm Filipino, and when she gave us a blessing and put ochre in our hands and said, now take this and go out in the world and do the same thing, I'm going to take that literally, going back to the Philippines.
To lead someone down the vertical wall at Mooney Falls, that's probably the trickiest, riskiest part of the whole experience.
The native people here in this village understand this water is a healing water. And it is not for my people or for myself to say, this is mine and you can't see it. No, I cannot say that. I share what is this beauty.
My favorite aspect of the whole experience is the swimming part. I think I get 20 years younger whenever I jump down and start swinging in the trees like a monkey.
Yeah. God, I'd love to be able to do that this afternoon outside.
Yeah.
Letting go of the rope, it almost felt like you were flying for just a second there. But the minute my head was out of the water, I felt like so invigorated. Then it didn't feel icy cold anymore. It felt great.
Well, all ages are doing that. I was on that rope too, of course.
Did you notice how having reverence for the Havasupai traditions helped the visitors have a greater appreciation for their own tradition? Everything about the trip was deeply respectful of the land and water. From the size of the tour, which was kept very small, to their allowing only a few visitors to enter the falls at the same time.
That's it.
Okay, that'll be the end of that then. And good. Yeah, we got 55. All right, welcome. That's beautiful, boy. I wanted to be there this hot July day. We were reminiscent of a kid. Usually it was a tire you'd go out and everything.
Yeah.
But beautiful. That was down at the base of the Grand Canyon.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy, I didn't know.
They've had floods since then, so a lot of that is no longer there.
Anyway, it's beautiful.
Haven't been back, but plan to go back someday to see.
Beautiful cinematography in that. Do you do it yourself? You have people to help you, or on the actual shooting?
I was the sound person on this one. I end up always being the sound.
I'm wondering about the sound. You know? I mean, how you get such good sound?
Oh, with a boom and
a boom.
Careful.
Have you got a boom mic that's coming, like the woman
a shotgun mic?
A shotgun mic. The woman who introduced that, you couldn't see any lavalier anywhere.
Right.
Was it being done from afar or from on top?
That woman is Kimberly Whitfield. Kimberly Whitfield is with the New Morning Show. So she didn't go down with us.
No. But I meant just the part where she was talking. She had no lavalier.
Oh, you mean
you're just catching it from afar?
The Indian woman?
No, the woman who introduced the set on the thing. I noticed she didn't have a lavalier.
Yeah, well, it's there, but it's
but you're doing
hidden.
it from afar.
Mine's hidden, kind of.
No. Well, okay. Anyway, and that woman where she was running on that first one, you could hear the footfall so well.
Yeah.
That was like on gravel and everything. You were doing it with a shotgun mic from afar.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a lot of tricks. They're running the graphics now.
Okay.
So anyway, really, really interesting. Thanks a lot for coming in with that and for all the good.
For having me. This
my
has been
pleasure,
great.
my pleasure, and everything like that. Good to talk to you, and it's your pleasure. Campbell Dalglish, he's a filmmaker, professor. You can see, screenwriter, director, and he's working now. I guess you're working toward having that footage that you've done on the Indian put into a larger venue for distribution.
Yeah, we have about 20 days of shooting.
More
hundreds
to
of hours. Yeah, we've got a lot to edit down. So I couldn't bring it today. We just got back Friday. So.
Oh, really? Welcome home. We just caught you at the thing.
Yeah.
That son of yours is gorgeous. You know, what's his name? Aaron?
Milo.
Yeah, he's gorgeous, beautiful.
Yeah, he's a beautiful boy.
5 years old or four?
Four and a half. Yeah.
He's five's my favorite. You people Anyway, Campbell, thank you very, very much for coming
Harold.
in. Your pleasure to have his perceptions. We'll come back again tomorrow. That's it for now. So thanks one more time, Campbell, for coming in.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a pleasure being here.
So we should be just about out now then. Okay, so that is, as they would say, a wrap. So we're done.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
And then we're going to be thrown out of here because there's another